Hello, everybody. My name is Tom Arliskus. Glad to be with you today. We're going to be talking about secession cockades in the Civil War. And what's brought to you, a word from our sponsors, the North-South Skirmish Association in Winchester, Virginia. And number one, we commemorate the heroism of both sides who fought in the American Civil War. We were formed in 1950. We promote safe and competitive shooting of Civil War firearms. We promote competitive reproduction of civilian costume and military costume and uniforms. And we hold two national events twice yearly. Now, we do live fire competition with Civil War small arms, muskets, rifles, carbine, and pistols. And we also have a great sutler area you can visit during the two nationals. We also do live fire competition with artillery, full-scale artillery and rifle artillery, smoothbore artillery, which is really, really fun to watch. And we also have, at every national skirmish, we have an historic accuracy competition for the lady civilians. And we also have, on the same weekend, historic authenticity competition for military. You're voted on the authenticity of your uniforms and a number of other things. So we have some really great people in our organization. Now, the national skirmishes are held at Fort Shenandoah, just west of Winchester, Virginia. Right here, here's the arrow. Our 150 national skirmish will be on this October of 2024. We are starting the celebration now with monthly lectures. This is one on civilian lives and roles in the Civil War. Now, the third 30 lecture series from May to September, the third Thursday at 7:30 Eastern Time, will be shown. And we're going to skip the two. And for September, we've got YouTube lectures recorded and posted online. And you do your search on YouTube. You look for Third Thursday N-SSA, Third Thursday N-SSA, to see our series of presentations. Now, today I'm going to be talking about secession cockades, and it's kind of interesting. We came up with this presentation, my wife and I, in 2011 at the Midwest Civil War Civilian Conference held in Springfield, Illinois. And it was received very well by the people who were there. And I know it's kind of an obscure subject, so that's why I'm bringing it here for you. It's going to be titled A Collection of Notes and Illustrations on Secessionist Patriotic Cockades and Ribbons. This was basically, now, if we're able to go back in time, 164 years ago, and we were strolling down an avenue or main street of any town or city, you would see, especially in the southern states, every man, woman, and children, even their horses and their mules, wearing some sort of a bright cockade or ribbon. The colors would be all white, all black, blue and white, black and white, all red, red, white, red, or red, white, and blue, dark blue, and light blue, are woven from palmetto leaves. These cockades were symbols of their political views on the question of the secession of states. You could tell what state a person was from simply by looking at the color and style of their cockade. This is true. Now, this is a young man. Some of the cockades were tiny, and some of them were as big as cabbages. This is a direct quote from a Southern paper from Petersburg, Virginia. Now, we saw a few immense rosettes of blue beige, as big as small cabbages. So they had cockades of all different sizes. And the size of this cockade represents how strongly this individual felt about the secession of states. The next slide, this is the man from Nashville, Tennessee, and he's wearing a patriotic cockade. The cockade on the right is the secession cockade. It's from the Tennessee National Museum, which is also this one's made of red velvet. And the one the individual is wearing is red, white, and blue. This man from Tennessee is telling you that he supports the Union of States. Now, Tennessee did not leave the Union until June 8th, 1861, 2 months after the firing on Fort Sumter. This gentleman could be a pro-Union supporter. In the corner, again, the corner secession ribbon from the Tennessee Historical Museum, very simple. of red velvet. So they were made in all different kinds of material and styles. Now, in the Deep South, especially in South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, you would begin to see these fellows on every corner, at every train station and boat landing. They called themselves the Minutemen, the Southern Fire Eaters, and their badge, a blue cockade. They were armed with revolvers, fighting knives, brooms, or clubs, and would stop you or any stranger passing through town, asking questions. They were looking for submissionists, those who supported the North and those who were against the secession of the Southern states. They were looking for Lincoln Black Republicans or abolitionists. Any of these terms, the Northern types are just plain Yankees. So these guys would be looking for you when you got into town. This is a picture of what from Columbia, South Carolina, dated April 7th, 1861. They also called themselves vigilance committees. Their job to help with the election process for the secession cause, to make sure people voted in the correct way. Their presence on the streets heightened a perceived threat of Northern aggression in 1860 and 1861. It was treasonous not to join these men or vote for secession. Violence was very common, and there are stories of men being rode out of town on fence rails, head shaved, or in Texas or Florida, even something worse. Some people were shot for not wearing the secession cockade. Now, President Lincoln himself had two instances, one in Springfield and another one in Washington, D.C., where pro-secessionists wore the blue cockade as an affront to his winning the election, chanting out loud they were not afraid to let their feelings be known, and they were wearing the blue cockade. Now, this blue cockade would be seen everywhere, from the halls of Congress in Washington, D.C. to Houston, Texas, up and down the Mississippi River and along the coast. Women would be passing them out. Mercantile shops would offer them for sale, or you could pick up at the local militia company headquarters, vigilant headquarters, and proclaim your support for secession by donning the blue cockade. Now, here's two more members of the Vigilance Committee, and basically, so where did this blue cockade come from? What was this? Where did it all start? Well, the first place I saw was from October 22nd, 1860, from a Baton Rouge, Louisiana paper, the Daily Advocate, and they said, South Carolina's Army, we are glad to see the people of our state everywhere preparing for the crisis which is at hand. As an effort to the Wide Awakes and of the North and the Minutemen of the South, all are organizing in the principal districts of South Carolina. Their object is to form an armed body of men and to join in with our fellow citizens, now forming in this and our sister states as Minutemen, whose duty is to arm, equip, and drill and be ready for any emergency that may arise in the present perilous position of the southern states. Their badge is a blue rosette, 2.5 inches in diameter, with a military button in the center, to be worn upon the side of the hat. Let everyone or every son of South Carolina prepare to mount the blue cockade. These people were serious. Now, how did this little rosette become the symbol of hostility for the South? Well, it goes back to 1832, the nullification crisis, whereas the southern state, or actually South Carolina, refused to pay tariffs to the North and fostered secession, and they adopted the blue cockade. Now, the blue cockade was seen on every street in Charleston, South Carolina, adorned with a South Carolina button, and was worn by every man, woman, and child in the city. This became a symbol of hostility and an emblem of war, as preached or mentioned in our Congress in 1832. But in 1832, the crisis was resolved. They lessened the tariff payments, but still the blue cockade was remembered by all as that symbol, as an emblem of war, and as an affront to the federal government. Now, this is a picture of an original cockade from 1832. Now it looks white in the picture, but originally was a light blue color. And in the center, they would put the South Carolina palmetto tree, or they put a South Carolina button. The button on the left-hand corner is an actual button from 1832. This is an interesting one. This appeared in the Harper's Weekly edition of November the 24th, 1860. And the people up north were also interested or keep seeing these blue cockades, and they didn't know what they meant. Basically, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, when I told you that you could tell what your position was in terms of secession or for the federal union, on the upper left-hand corner, we have a palmetto cockade from South Carolina. In the bottom corner, we have a cockade from Maryland, dark blue rosette. Upper right-hand corner, we have a patriotic cockade, which meant you supported the Union. And the bottom right-hand corner, we have a Virginia cockade, which consisted of a blue rosette with lemon yellow ribbons hanging down. That's how you could tell somebody was from Virginia, by seeing that cockade with the yellow ribbons. And again, on the cover of Harper's Weekly, November 24th, 1860, they pictured the blue cockade. It got to be so, what's the word? It's so, that so many people were wearing it. It actually appeared in the newspapers. It was that popular. And besides the cockades, traveling south, people would make up armbands. Now, here's a couple. He's wearing a secession cockade, and that's an actual armband, wear on a man's coat sleeve or a woman's sleeve. It says Independence Declared South Carolina, December 20th, 1860. So besides cockades, they would wear armbands. Now, here's a sample of some more. The guy up on the left-hand side is from the 154th Tennessee. And it looks like he's either wearing a white or light blue cockade. We can't tell by the picture. The center cockade is all red, and the fellow at the bottom has one on his kepi. So the early militia volunteers, the early volunteers of the South, many of them showed up for muster wearing a cockade. Now, here's some more. Here's another page of samples of these cockades. You've got the red cockade up north, left-hand side. You have again, the Maryland cockade. The black and white one is from North Carolina. You have a little secession flag that they would pin on their chest. You've got an individual in their upper right-hand corner. He's got a blue cockade and a ribbon on, telling you that he is now enlisted in the Confederate Army. And the bottom left-hand corner is a patriotic ribbon. So these are the people that did not support secession, but were for the Union. Now, this is a Mississippi soldier, kind of interesting. Again, he's wearing a ribbon. The ribbon on the left, we made up some of these, for our civilian conference, but it says basically the Southern Confederate States, Jeff Davis as president. That's a Confederate rosette and badge. So they had a blue rosette on top with Jefferson Davis's picture in there. And on the bottom, he had the new Confederate flag of the Confederate States of America. So again, in Mississippi, very popular to wear ribbons and flags when you joined the Army. So here it is, the little blue cockade. Basically, these were used or seen by the thousands all across the South. And it was a symbol of your recognition and support of the secession of states. Now, in South Carolina, they had something a little bit different. They wore the palmetto cockade. And these are samples of palmetto cockades worn by the early first South Carolina volunteers. These are all made by the ladies and given to the men. Here's a fella. He's from the first South Carolina Orange Rifles, and he's wearing a really tall, neat palmetto tree on his kepi. Now, it was said, if I can find it here, let me see. They've got a description of the palmetto cockade. This is from contemporary newspapers. Old companies from our state wore cockades of palmetto made to imitate the tree orange stars. These were the work of our young lady friends and of the captain of the company. So the captain of the company would have the young ladies weave these palmetto leaves into cockades for their soldiers as a symbol of their support for the state of South Carolina and their support for secession of states. And again, here's another one. South Carolina volunteers, without uniformity in dress, wearing no insignia, wore the emblematic palmetto tree crescent or cockade as a sign of their cause. So again, it was recognized in the newspapers and very common to see the palmetto cockade in South Carolina in 1860 and 1861. Now, this is kind of interesting. They were so popular, the ladies would make them up and they would send them to friends all over the South. Now, this one is from as a gift of a Miss Maddie Cosby to a W.L. Byers of Georgia as a token of her devotion and esteem. Palmetto cockades were popular all over the country. So the ladies would make these up and actually send them to the soldiers in the field to be worn on their caps. Now, this is the back of an actual cockade. And I know, from a civilian standpoint, in a civilian conference, how do you make them? Well, basically, it's a buckram background, and they would take a silk ribbon, and they would 1 inch in diameter, and they would pleat it a half an inch, put a pin in there, and then sew it to the buckram on the back. And it takes about anywhere from 3 to 6 yards of silk ribbon to make a cockade. I'm not a sewer, and I did make them, but that was like 15 years ago. So basically, maybe we can do a class or do something on how to make a cockade. The ladies probably know better than I do. But so again now, like, when did it stop? When did all this cockade significance, or when did they stop wearing secession cockades in the South? Well, basically, they say by late 1862, the blue cockade was seldom seen anywhere in the South. That's because they couldn't get the blue ribbon, the blue silk ribbon, to make the cockades. And by 1862, the fascination with secession and the enthusiasm was gone for the South. So by 1862, you no longer see the blue cockades. One thing that I want to leave you with, Terry and I, we made these cockades and sold them a long time ago. And what was interesting is that during the centennial and the movie Lincoln that came out, and when they were voting on the Emancipation Proclamation, and the ladies were forming in or coming into the Congress up in the upper level seats, you'll see the ladies coming in and they were wearing patriotic cockades, red, white, and blue. When I saw that, I went like, wow. I says, I think we started something. And for the N-SSA and for all you aficionados out there, all you civilian impressionists in the N-SSA and out there, a secession cockade in 1860 and 1861 was very, very common. To everyone, the recording of this lecture will be posted to YouTube ASAP to search Third Thursday N-SSA. Also, we're having a history fair. This is very important at our Fall National, October the 4th and 6th, 2024, Fort Shenandoah, Winchester, Virginia. We're going to have a big civilian fair, a ladies' aid society fair, and we wish you would all come to see our N-SSA range and meet our N-SSA people. They're great. So with that, and if you have any questions, you can post them on YouTube. Again, searching Third Thursday N-SSA, or email to me, the presenter, tarliskus@hotmail.com. And that's it, and thank you very much. I hope to see you later.